Now that we've had a few days to digest Rachel Reeves's budget that she delivered on the 30th of October, I just wanted to do a short video to share a few planning areas that we're looking at where we think we can make a difference to our clients' financial lives. And they are specifically around the increase in capital gains tax rates, the fact that pensions are now part of the inheritance tax regime, and the fact that agricultural property relief and business relief is limited to £1 million. So the first thing is there's an increase to capital gains tax. It's gone up from 10% to 18% for gains that fall within the basic rate of income tax. And then it's gone up from 20% to 24% for gains that fall above the basic rate band for income tax. That brings all capital gains in line with the capital gains that already apply to property. So what are the planning opportunities around that? Well, the first thing to say is that it's too late to do anything about that. If you haven't already done the sales of your assets that qualify for capital gains tax before the 30th of October, you have missed the boat. The rates that apply changed on the 30th of October, so any sales would needed to have been done before that. So you're stuck with 18% at the basic rate and 24% at the higher rate. But what can you do? Well, here's a thing. If it's possible for you, making pension contributions extends the basic rate band. And that means if you make pension contributions, which is obviously planning for your own retirement, notwithstanding the fact that pensions are now part of inheritance tax, which I'll come to in a little while. By extending the basic rate band, it means more of the capital gains tax that you are due to pay will be taxed at 18% and not 24%. So the second thing is that pensions now come into the inheritance tax regime from 2027. Previously, all money inside a pension was considered outside your estate for inheritance tax. And when that money got inherited by a beneficiary, the tax treatment of that inherited pension wealth was dependent on the age when you died. If you died before 75, it wasn't taxed at all. And if you died after 75, it was just taxed as income in the year that you withdrew it. So it was possible, if you passed away before 75, to inherit a pension completely free from any sort of income tax. Well, from 2027, the value of a pension will be included inside your estate for the calculation of inheritance tax. That means people who weren't caught by inheritance tax before 2027 will be paying some inheritance tax after 27 because the value of their pension fund will push them over the threshold at which inheritance tax is payable. It's important to note that pensions can be inherited by a spouse or civil partner with no adverse inheritance tax on the first death. That's the same for any assets owned or passed between spouses or civil partners as currently exists. The second thing to say is for those estates where inheritance tax may be payable, but their value is less than £2 million, currently they may be impacted by pensions coming into the estate. Because currently, if your estate is below £2 million, even though you might pay inheritance tax, you're still entitled to the residence nil rate band of £175,000 each, which is used to set against the value of property passed to direct descendants, which is defined as children or grandchildren. If the estate is over £2 million, because the pensions have been added into the estate, then the residence nil rate band gets reduced by £1 for every £2 over £2 million. So it gets tapered down gradually. So pensions coming into an estate might mean more inheritance tax being paid. So what are the planning opportunities that I'm seeing around pensions being inside the inheritance tax regime? Well, the first one is that there's no inheritance tax liability on gifting out of income. So setting up withdrawals from pensions can be seen as income, and as long as you can demonstrate that those income withdrawals are surplus income, then you can gift those income withdrawals away without any inheritance tax ever being due on those. Now, obviously, withdrawals from pensions, apart from tax-free cash, withdrawals from pensions are going to be taxed at your marginal rate, so 20% or 40% if you're a higher rate taxpayer. But if you gift those, for example, a parent withdraws from their pension, they've just got the state pension and they pay 20% tax on the withdrawal from their pension, which is surplus income. They gift that to a child and that child then invests that into their pension. They get the tax relief either at 20% or 40% or 45%, build up their pensions that they can get tax-free cash on at retirement. So that is one way around it. That's a planning opportunity I've seen. The other thing that hasn't been talked about anywhere that I've seen, it'll be interesting to see what happens during the consultation period, is that currently if you gift 10% of your estate to charity, then your estate qualifies for a lower rate of inheritance tax of 36%. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to play out with estates and pensions. One possible solution is that you can nominate 10% of your entire estate to be a death benefit nominee from your pension, and whether that would apply the low rate of inheritance tax across all your assets. That's yet to be clarified. I haven't seen anywhere where they've talked about the lower rate of inheritance tax because 10% of the value of an estate is gifted to charity. So that's one for us to look out for. And the other big change for us is the limit on agricultural property relief and business property relief to £1 million. Previously, agricultural property and business property, as long as they were both qualifying, was unlimited values were exempt from inheritance tax. Now that's capped at £1 million. But perhaps with pensions coming into inheritance tax, there's going to be more demand for people to invest in businesses that qualify for business property relief up to £1 million. So lower value businesses could be a good planning opportunity for people. So rather than building up money in pension funds outside an estate for inheritance tax, perhaps now the solution is to build up money in business assets that qualify for business property relief up to £1 million. A husband and wife can each have £1 million, then that could be a good solution. So there's just a few ideas I've had. I haven't given them too much technical thought as to how they might work in practice or whether there's any unintended consequences of my thinking, but that's just 3 of the areas that I'll be devoting a lot more thought to over the coming weeks and how we implement those solutions for our clients going forward. There's been quite a shift in the goalposts for the planning that I've been doing with clients over the last 25 years. I've been doing this since 1999. And so pensions have always been outside estates for inheritance tax planning, and that's how we've always operated. And so now it's going to be a case of going back to all the clients that I work with and saying the goalposts have moved, these are the options, what are the opportunities, and applying it to their specific circumstances to get the right outcome for them and their families. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.